Hi everyone, welcome to the Moms Interrupted podcast.
Welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm a little hungry.
Me too. We both didn't eat breakfast.
We split a banana because mom life, trying to get our butts out the door. But I'm good otherwise. How are you?
I'm good. So I actually went over to Natasha's house and her husband made me steak tacos and...
Well, we mostly made your son steak tacos.
Yeah, Diaz. Tell some quesadillas.
He ate more than an adult human.
Yeah.
And he's not even 2.
Yeah. Now you know what I deal with.
Do you shop at Costco? Because you probably should start.
I need to.
At least for your meat.
Sometimes Costco stresses me out.
Oh, I don't go there. I only order it online.
That's what I need to do then.
I can't go to the...
It's too much. It's scary.
It's an anxiety attack waiting to happen.
I don't want to go alone, so then I'd have to wait on the weekend to go with Connor, and then it's just like a total shit show on the weekend. So
it costs $10 to get same day delivery. To me, that's worth the gas to get there.
That's crazy. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, plus a tip for the person, but
yeah,
honestly, money well spent.
Yeah.
To try to take my kids to Costco with me, it's a no for me, dog.
So what are we going to chat about today?
Trying to conceive.
Fun fact is I'm an open book about this, but I am trying to conceive. So this is good for me because I will learn. And Natasha is actually my guru when it comes to trying to conceive because she is very on it and very detailed and specific about, conceived out of science.
I'm a Excel spreadsheet, Reddit, in the weeds kind of girl.
And actually, we will put up a photo right here of Natasha's trying to conceive ovulation tests because it is really amazing.
For me, it's such a mystery, and although it's based in science, it's also so out of our control. So when it comes to trying to conceive and many other things in life, I just try to control what I can and then try to let go of the rest.
Yeah.
So everything that I could learn about it and everything that I could do to increase my chances of making it a less painful process, I tried to control up front so that I couldn't be like, oh, well, I should have tried this. Oh, I should have tried that. Oh, I'll do that next time. I wanted to go into it like front loading it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And before we dive in, I do want to stress that we are talking about trying to conceive separate from fertility struggles because 1 in 6 couples face some sort of fertility struggle, and I never want to be that person who is telling someone who's been trying to conceive for 6 months or a year to put your legs up after sex or do all these things that I'm sure you've tried everything, and that this episode isn't about that, but it is important to stress that the subject of infertility comes up when talking about trying to conceive because there are so many couples going through that. And I actually have a question that I wanted to ask because I'm so curious, and a lot of friends talk about this. But did you ever go get your fertility tested or your husband's before trying to conceive?
No, I actually went to my OB's office to do a preconception appointment. They do blood work. I wanted to get my AMH levels tested and all of these things that I looked into, but I was 27 at the time. They're like, no, we'll push that down the road. My OB advised doing less to begin with because she's like, look, you can do all of these tests. She said that it really causes more stress than is necessary because you don't know how those things are going to react with your partner. She said that in her experience, it really is just not necessary unless you know that you have some sort of hereditary condition, then you go down that path.
That makes sense. I feel like it would cause me anxiety to know things that maybe wouldn't actually impact you. Right. And I feel the same way about excessive ultrasounds or things that are maybe unnecessary to look too much into. Right. I do think sometimes you can know too much and it makes you... In birth, for example, electronic fetal monitoring. It's been proven that unless you have an issue that requires that surveillance, it actually leads to higher rates of cesareans. Yeah. So I would feel the same way about fertility unless I had some sort of genetic condition or I knew my thyroid levels were off or something was off. And I think getting blood tests is great regardless. I just got my blood drawn and learned a lot about myself that could potentially help me conceive. I was really, really low in omega-3.
Oh.
And the doctor was like, you should take more fish oil. And I'm like, that's something you would want to do anyway, trying to conceive or being pregnant. So I did learn things that would help me and didn't cause extreme concern.
Right.
Whereas when you're going deeper, I think it can cause stress, and stress is actually a big factor when trying to conceive.
For sure.
It's pretty low intervention for men to check sperm.
I told my husband that if by a certain point we weren't pregnant, that he had to go do a sperm test. And so I looked into it. I talked to the fertility clinic. The nice thing about sperm quality is that it's relatively easy to test. They just go to the clinic, do the, business. And then it takes a couple days for them to run the lab on it. And then if your results come back abnormal, you can do some lifestyle things to try to change things. It's harder with egg quality because we're born with the eggs that we have for life. So with sperm, maybe you can't totally change them, but there are recommendations to help your chances. No hot tubs, boxers instead of briefs, no riding bikes, things that are relatively easy lifestyle changes. And we know that sperm have a 90-day lifespan. So they say that after a 90-day cycle, you retest and see if those lifestyle changes have made a difference. Obviously, when you're trying to conceive, that doesn't feel like a short amount of time, but those are things that you can control with relatively low intervention.
Yeah. It was something I didn't think about the first time I was trying to conceive. And now that I'm trying, and it's been a few months, and it didn't happen the way it did the first time, which is, just made sure to have a lot of sex during the window of fertility, and it happened. And I felt very lucky that it happened that way. And this time, after a few months, was like, okay, I think I'm going to strategize and really try and look into things. My husband loves to sauna, and I had no idea that sauna, similar to a hot tub, it really impacts sperm. And he had been doing that. Yeah. So it's something I didn't know. Also, I didn't realize how negatively alcohol and weed kind of impact sperm. Yeah. That's something that I feel like isn't spoken about enough because everyone consumes alcohol and a lot of people smoke weed.
No, not just smoke it, ingest
it somehow.
It just makes your sperm swim around in circles.
It's so crazy. The sperm is high.
Yeah. They're like, la, 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 where am I swimming to?
Where am I swimming? I forgot. No, truly, it's just something I didn't think about before. And I think it's so interesting because it is a low intervention way of making impacts in your lifestyle that could actually be positive impacts anyway. So it's less stressful. And I think we need to talk about male fertility more because everyone always says 1 in 6 women, 1 in 5 women. Right. And I'm like, where is the man in that equation? Because sperm is such a big part of the conversation.
It's actually 50% of fertility issues are related to the male these days. Historically, it's always been blamed on the women. Oh, she's sterile. Oh, she's infertile. But it's 50-50. It's much easier for men to get checked for fertility issues than it is for women. Yeah. It's like $125 at a clinic to do the test. So relatively low cost compared to a female.
Also compared to the costs of IVF or all of these things.
Right. So if you can get ahead of those things, then that's first stop. I would think. How are you feeling about everything?
I am feeling good. I have an acupuncture appointment. You referred me to someone next week. So I'm excited about that because I feel like a lot of the times when you're trying to conceive, you can feel really alone in it. You're in the bathroom taking ovulation test strips and you don't really have anyone to talk to. I think it's really cool, the trying to conceive community that you can see online, and there really are so many people going through it. But even for someone like me who I am very lucky to already have a baby, I feel like I don't have infertility struggles, but knowing it can still take a long time and that's normal is something that's been hard for me to remember because you'll always have friends or people you know announcing on social media or saying, I got pregnant without trying, oops-a-daisy, this was a mistake. And it's so hard to feel so many things at once, which is excitement for your friends because you're so excited for them. Yeah. But also, why is it so much harder for me? Why is this not happening on accident? Like, trust me, I am having enough sex. Yeah. But too much sex. Yeah. And that's another thing. So I've learned a few things this time around trying to get pregnant. One, it is unfortunately normal sometimes for it to take 6 months to a year. And that's regardless of having infertility issues.
Yeah.
Two, I've learned that it's not necessarily good to have sex too much because sperm count can take 1 to 2 days to totally replenish.
Yeah.
So you have to be really strategic about the window that you're having sex in. And I had always been to my husband, we need to have sex every single day. Let's have sex multiple times a day. Let's make sure the sperm gets to the egg.
Right.
And that's actually not good because less sperm are given the chance to reach the egg when it really matters, in the time frame where it really matters.
Right.
And so I just feel like I'm learning so much about our reproductive systems that I didn't know about before.
I really geek out on this stuff.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, like you said, will just be like, oh, my Flow app says I ovulate on the 14th day of the month, and so I just have sex around then, and la la la, or it was a mistake, or whatever.
Yeah.
But the people who like to get into the weeds, like me, I was full deep dive. I also am into science, but full deep dive into all of the things that why not know about to increase your chances. Like you said, every other day is ideal, and you have a fertile window, and the sperm can live in the female reproductive tract for up to 5 days. So you want to have sex probably every other day, and then on the day of ovulation, it's recommended that you have sex, but it's not about getting sperm up there at that point. It's just to make things move around. The fallopian tubes do a little dance when you have sex, and so that helps things get closer together, the egg and the sperm. At least that's what my fertility acupuncturist told me, who you're going to go see. Also, fertility acupuncture, highly recommend. It can be covered by insurance, so look into that. And they are just super knowledgeable. And like you said, it's just nice to have someone who's on your team in the trying to conceive space. Also, it's super relaxing and just feels like a treat when you're going through something that's stressful. I always thought about it like, okay, well, every month that I'm not pregnant, at least I get to go to my acupuncture.
Yeah.
It's a nice something to look forward to, and you can talk to her about all the things that you're feeling.
Yeah, I'm excited. Another thing that I always think about is how we spend our whole lives trying to not get pregnant. Whole lives. I mean, we all got on birth control at a very young age, and we were on it for a decade plus.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
I was on it for 10 years.
Me too.
Until I was
over
like,
10 years.
hey,
Yeah.
I'm ready to be done with this.
Birth control, plan B. Unfortunately, people have to have abortions. And then the time comes around where you want to get pregnant and you've met your life partner and you're excited about things. And then all of a sudden you start questioning, wait, but now am I too old? Is his sperm not good enough? Why do I actually only have a very small window of time to get pregnant? And all of a sudden he's taking sperm supplements. I'm going to acupuncture. We're making sure we have sex every other day. It's like, what the heck? It just seems so complicated, and we spend our teenage years being afraid to get pregnant, and then when the time comes, you realize it actually can be very difficult.
And that brings me back to the stat. I think it's someone in their mid to late 20s. The stat is you have a 25 to 30% chance of getting pregnant every month, and that's if you're trying. And then 30 to 35, I believe, is 20 to 25%. And the percentage goes down as you get over 35 and 40. So if you think about that, we're in our early 30s. So we have a 20 to 25% chance of getting pregnant every month if we're trying. I mean, that's low, even if everything is good, right? I always think about it like the sperm and the egg have to hit it off, you know? I actually saw a video recently. You know, I get into the weeds. So someone was talking about how the egg is actually the one that chooses the sperm. And so the egg has to be the one that's like, I like this one, and they have to bring them in. And the sperms are kind of just all like dancing around trying to get the egg's attention. And she's the one who, which makes sense, she is the one who chooses the specific sperm, obviously, as it should be. So there could be sperm that the egg is like, yeah, there's sperm up here, but I don't like any of you. So try again next month.
Yeah.
So No sauna, no alcohol or weed.
If it's been a few months, it doesn't hurt to change your lifestyle up. And my husband and I are doing together right now a 1 month cleanse. And it's more so also because we felt like we used to do it all the time together, and it's a fun thing for us to do, and we feel really healthy and good at the end. But it's also because I feel like, what's the harm? It could help. Also, sorry, but you need to reconsider your life partner if they are getting upset about having to sacrifice some things during the TTC time, because just think about for a second how little they have to sacrifice with their body for the rest of the journey.
No.
And so for them to just be healthy and focus on this time during trying to conceive is the least they can do, because you're about to be pregnant, you're about to give birth, you're about to be postpartum, you're about to breastfeed. They just have to jizz so they can make sure their jizz is good quality.
Up the jizz quality.
Let's up the jizz quality.
Also, I think that they don't men typically not a ton of forethought, right? So, and I'm generalizing, don't come at me, but I'm just saying you have to remind them a lot of times and be like, yo, I am the one doing all of these things. This is your role in it.
Yeah.
If there's any pushback, obviously.
Yeah.
Look, you can't be as unhinged as me. I wouldn't let my husband sit with his laptop on his lap. He wasn't allowed to put his cell phone in his pocket. I'm talking about for months. Absolutely no hot tub, even a hot shower. I was like, can you take a cold shower? I heard it's better for circulation.
My husband was like, I listened to this podcast and I think I can still sauna if I just wrap some cold towels around my testicles. I was like, you can sacrifice the sauna for a couple months until I'm pregnant, and we will not be wrapping your testicles in ice packs.
I'm sorry, but I can't get that picture out of here. That's something I'm never going to be able to get out of my head.
But that's him being like, I researched this and I actually don't have to sacrifice this. I love you, babe, but you do have to sacrifice it.
It's just like,
come on.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
I'm about to be barfing for 9 months.
Yeah.
So if you have to give up the sauna, and my husband is also addicted to
You have to give up the sauna?
Like first world problems, Connor.
That just sounded like Moira from Schitt's Creek.
Totally.
Connor.
You want to do this for longer?
Yeah.
By the 3rd month, we were both like, okay, we're pretty over it.
Yeah, that's something to talk about too.
Oh, yeah.
You really have to have sex more than usually the amount that you're used to in a marriage when it's been a long time.
Look, everybody's different, but...
To be honest, though, I've never talked to someone who has been in a 6+ year relationship by the time they're trying to conceive and is like, this was so fun. Yeah. Unless you're the guy. Maybe.
But after a few months, even the guy is like, okay.
Yeah.
You know.
You're coming home from work, you're tired, and it's the day. You're on the day that you have to, and it just sucks having to do it. It can really take the fun out of sex. Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest part, I think, is like having to.
Yeah.
And it's like, can we not? And then you're like, no, we have to. Let's get this over with.
Yeah.
What's fun about that?
I'm ovulating.
Right. And you're like, woo. Like I said, this baby's conceived out of science.
So good. So can you describe, if someone's trying to get pregnant and it's their first time trying, what you recommend they start doing?
Okay, so I'm not a doctor, but I am a
TTC psycho.
A proud TTC psycho is what I would agree to. I have 2 babies, so I've done this twice. And everybody's different, but what I would recommend is a few months before you are going to try, I would get some ovulation strips. Emily Oster was actually just talking about this on Wednesday on her stories. Ovulation strips tests, like the little strips that you can buy on Amazon that you dip in your pee, those are the best indicator of your fertility window. So there's plenty of apps, there's plenty of different brand ovulation strips. They all work the same. It's testing your LH surge. Your LH surge is what tells your body to release an egg, and that's ovulation. So typically, 12 to 24 hours after your LH surge, your egg is ready, and the egg lives for 8 to 24 hours after it's released. So it's a very short window, and if there's sperm up there and if the sperm and the egg like each other, that's how you get started. So start every day testing your LH, follow the instructions on the box, put it in your app, track it, figure out what cycle day you ovulate on or what cycle day your LH surges on. It changes a little bit every month. So like the first time around, I ovulated between day 16 and 20. So we knew that once I got close to, say, day 14, I started testing twice a day. Sometimes you surge really fast. Sometimes it has a longer surge, so I didn't want to miss it. Plus, like I said, I'm just like a little bit of a science nerd, and so I enjoy doing this stuff. This is not something that you have to do. This is just something that like I like to do.
I will say though, I know we talked about how more information sometimes can cause stress.
Yeah.
But the first time around, I went into it like I actually don't know any of this stuff about my body. So I'm going to look at it as in this is kind of cool to figure out what's going on.
Me too.
We weren't even trying yet, but I started just buying the ovulation test strips and just seeing what was going on and trying to figure out when I ovulated just to kind of know what was going on.
Right, because if you look it up, it'll say women tend to ovulate around day 14, right? That's based on a 28-day cycle. Your cycle could be anywhere from 21 to 35 days for a normal cycle. So that's a huge range, and a typical luteal phase is between 10 to 17 days. The luteal phase are the days after you ovulate leading up to your period. So anyways, your cycle can vary. Okay, so real quick, we'll do like a menstrual cycle 101. The beginning of your cycle from day 1 to 14-ish is your follicular phase. So that's your period, and that's the beginning of your cycle before you ovulate. Then you have ovulation. After ovulation, you have your luteal phase. So in the follicular phase, you start testing your LH with the ovulation strips. When your LH surges, your egg is released within the next 24 hours. Then your egg lives for 8 to 24-ish hours. So that's your chance. Sperm can live in the female reproductive tract for up to 5 days. So that's when you have your opportunity to get pregnant. After ovulation, you're just waiting. Takes us to the 2-week wait. But what I would recommend is starting a few months before you want to conceive. Understand how long your cycle is typically. Is it 32 days? Is it 35 days? Is it 22 days? Because I know multiple friends who were like, oh, women on average ovulate on day 14. Their cycles were only 24 days. They were ovulating on day 10 and completely missing their window. There are other ways to track your ovulation, like cervical mucus and those sorts of things, but I would say the easiest way to be sure is to check your LH surge. Then every month you can be like, okay, this is when our window is, and there's no confusion there. You're not missing it for months.
Yeah.
Learn about your body a little bit. Pay attention. Once I started paying attention, I realized I have ovulation cramps, and those can happen before, during, or after ovulation. But it's cool to know how your body works.
Yeah, it is. And let's talk about the 2-week wait. It sucks for anyone who's done the 2-week wait. Even if you've only been trying 3-4 months, it's still just so irritating.
The thing with trying to conceive is that once you decide that you want to conceive, you're like, give me a baby, right?
Yeah.
So waiting, even if it's only 3-4 months, yeah, in hindsight, that's just a blip, right? But when you're in it, it is unbearable. You're like, why am I not getting pregnant? It feels so out of your control. So the 2-week wait every month, and then your period comes. It's just depressing.
I feel like the best thing my husband and I did the first time was we actually didn't feel ready to conceive, but we knew we wanted babies soon-ish in the next year or so. And my sister was going through really, really tough fertility issues. And we were like, let's start trying so that if it takes a year or takes 2 years and we have to figure out what's going on, that we are getting ahead of it. And what I will say is it doesn't ever really feel like it's the right time.
It's always the wrong time.
It's always the wrong time. There's always a wedding. There's always a work thing. You want to switch jobs.
Want to renovate your house. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always a bad time.
It's always a bad time. So I'm glad we did that the first time around because it happened fairly quickly and we were pleasantly surprised. And we weren't at that point where we were like, we're so ready. So it wasn't as stressful.
Right.
Whereas this time around, I waited until I was really ready. My son is 2 and I feel like I wanted that perfect age gap and I wanted to feel 100%. I breastfed for quite a while. So I'm glad I gave myself that time, but I waited until I desperately wanted another kid. And I waited because the first time it took such little amount of time.
Right.
So I was like, I don't want to start yet because it could happen immediately. And then
Right.
it didn't happen immediately. And now I'm at that desperation point. And now each month that goes by, it becomes harder and harder.
It's such a mind fuck because you want to control it. You want to control
Yeah.
the timeline. You want to control the age gap. You want to control everything that you can. And it just feels so out of your control.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the first time it was just a couple months and you weren't really trying that hard and you were pleasantly surprised. And then you're like, well, what if I get pregnant right away?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh no. But then what if it takes a while? And then you're like, oh no. So it really just feels like you can't
Yeah.
win sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough. trying
And
to
that
conceive.
2-week wait is so hard because you don't want to take a test too early. You could get a false
Oh.
negative, and that could make you feel really low before you can actually get a positive. We actually have a friend who that happened to recently, took a test too early, got a negative, went about her life being like, oh, I'm not pregnant. And then turns out she was pregnant.
Right. Another reason why it's smart to know your cycle and know how long your luteal phase is and what day you ovulate, because you really can't take a test earlier than 5 days before your missed period. Obviously that's super early, and I wouldn't even really take any of the results seriously until a day or two before your period, really, because that is when it's most accurate. But you could start. So typical implantation, I think the most common implantation day is 8 or 9 days past ovulation. And you can't get a positive, or you can't get an accurate result until it implants, because that's when you start making HCG, which is the pregnancy hormone, and that's what the pregnancy tests for. Anytime you're taking a pregnancy test before that point, there's no way to know.
Yeah.
After you start making HCG is when you can take the test. Implantation is typically day 8 or 9. They say it can happen between day 6 and 12, depending on how long your cycle is, and everybody's different, but you're really just setting yourself up for failure for a couple days before your missed period.
And the first time I was like, la da 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 da, it's my first kid. I'm one of the first of my big friend group to have a kid, so I'm not that stressed. So I waited until I was like, wow, I haven't gotten my period in a while. I should test.
Yeah.
What a funny thing to look back at, because now I'm like, has it been 10 days? When can I test? When can I test?
And
crazy.
how many times have you Googled,
When can I test?
when can I test? And
and is this a symptom?
is this a symptom?
I have a dairy intolerance,
Yeah.
and it must have been around 8 days after ovulation or so. I asked Natasha, I feel like I'm having implantation cramps. I feel like this and this. I ended up not being pregnant and getting my period, and looking back, I'm like, I think it's because I ate ice cream.
Also though, every single early pregnancy symptom is also a PMS symptom. So
Yeah.
it just messes with your mind, and you're so in your head. Well, not everyone, but if you're like me, you're so in your head about it. You're like, ooh, was that a twinge? Ooh, was that nausea? Ooh, is my sense of smell more sensitive?
Totally.
It just, you're so in your head
Yeah.
about every little thing. Ooh, am I more bloated than usual? You know, and so how much time did I spend the first time around specifically, the second time too, but the first time around specifically being like, was that a pregnancy symptom? And it's like, no, bitch, you're just about to get your period. Calm down.
Or you ate ice cream.
Yeah.
And you're having cramps.
Right. You need to take a
Oh,
Lactaid. But there's nothing worse. I would compare the 2-week wait to the 4 weeks that you have to wait to go into the doctor when you find out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Those two specific chunks of time feel like the longest wait of your life. Waiting to see if you're pregnant, and then another 4 weeks or so to go into the doctor to confirm the pregnancy. Like, what is this kind of torture?
And then the wait between that and the anatomy scan for me was also a big one.
Also waiting to get the genetic test results, right?
It's all, The 2-week wait is where it starts early.
Your anxiety and your stress about everything. And then if you are pregnant, there's so much waiting. There's so many things to stress about. But I actually felt like I was more stressed about all of those things the second time around, because I had been exposed to more information and friends that had bad things happen.
Yeah.
The first time around, I was in this blissful, altered state of reality where I was like, I'm pregnant, nothing could go wrong, everything's perfect. Waiting is really hard, but that was the biggest anxiety that I had, was just like, ooh, I can't wait to see the baby on the ultrasound.
Yeah.
The second time around, I was like, oh my gosh, I know so many people that have miscarried.
Yeah.
I know people that had late term genetic problems, anatomy scan issues. I was just like, oh my gosh, this anxiety is crazy the second time, because you know how precious it is, and you know how much everybody around you wants it too, and to see people go through hard times is like gut-wrenching.
Yeah, it's really hard too, because it's a beautiful thing that it's all over social media, because I feel like it's easier to feel like you have a community and you're less alone because you see other people going through it, but on the flip side, see everyone going through the positive things. And I know that was really hard for my sister to see all of the pregnancy announcements, the gender reveals, the first birthday parties, and like it keeps getting longer and longer down the road, and you still don't have what you want, which is a baby, and it can get really hard. I suggest doing a social media cleanse.
100%.
Or muting some people. And if you are at the point where it's been a while and you feel like it's impacting your mental health, I know that helped her to just kind of take a step back.
There's certain things that I use social media for, and I have a secret Instagram where I can follow a few things that I find beneficial, and at times in my life when I don't want to see all of the things on my normal feed, I can just log out of that one and still have access to it, so it doesn't feel like I'm like, oh, I have to give up social media because this is, and it's so dramatic, right? Yeah. I can just use it for what I find to be positive and tune out the noise of the rest of it. Yeah. So that's also another option. It's very hard to watch people and be happy for people when you also want that so badly. And you've said it before, but comparison is the thief of joy. But it is just awful. I would say one of the hardest things to be happy for people for is when they're pregnant and you're not, and you want that. I think that's a pain that people who haven't been through it don't understand. Yeah. You can be happy for someone, but also be sad for yourself. Yeah. And that's totally valid.
Yeah, I agree. So there's so many old wives' tales out there about trying to conceive, and I love reading about all of them, but I want to know, what is the most unhinged thing that you did to try to conceive?
It's a long list. I bought my husband completely new underwear, 100% organic cotton, boxers only, sized up. I told him he could not wear skinny jeans, not allowed to wear synthetic fabrics, not allowed to do any workouts that would make him too hot, as in like temperature wise, not sexy.
Just had to confirm. You can do workouts that make you hot, but you can't do workouts that make you hot.
Yeah. No alcohol, no weed, no anything bad for you. I had us on organic only male fertility supplements. I was going to acupuncture. I told him that if it didn't happen within a 3-month time frame, he had to go to get his sperm tested. I was in conversations with a fertility clinic. Unhinged doesn't even start to explain it.
I love it.
But those are the things that made me feel more in control and just more at peace with it taking longer. I do feel like if I would have known the stat that women between 25 and 35 have a 20 to 25% chance of getting pregnant every month, maybe I wouldn't have been so unhinged, so spiraling. Maybe I would have been like, okay, chances are actually really low, even if you're trying. So maybe I would have given us some more grace. I do believe though, I mean, having gone through it a second time and being similarly unhinged, that is just my personality. Yeah. But whatever works.
Well, thank God it's your personality, because
You're benefiting?
need you. I am benefiting from Natasha being a self-proclaimed TTC psycho. I text her, I don't even think sometimes I upload my tests into the app. I just text them straight to Natasha.
You gotta have your village starting from this point.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to talk through these things.
I will say also with our friendship in particular, sometimes I wish we were having kids at the exact same time. But then sometimes I'm like, there's privileges to us being spaced out because we can help each other through different phases. Because I think if I were sending you those tests and you were also sending me tests and one of us got pregnant first and then the other one was trying really hard and wasn't, it could create a sadness, and you don't want that in a friendship. You don't want competition. You want to be happy for each other, and it's beautiful when friends can be pregnant at the same time, but then when both are trying and it's not happening at the same time, that's sad.
And similarly, I've had friends where a group of us are all pregnant at the same time. There were 4 of us that were pregnant, and then someone had a miscarriage. Then someone had fertility issues, and that's happened multiple times, and then the other person is going on, and it's really hard for the person who obviously lost the pregnancy to cope and talk to that person because that's something that they want so bad. But also the person who's pregnant, then you feel guilty for being pregnant. You don't know how to talk to the other person. It's like you don't know how to navigate that friendship anymore on either side. And so it can be really tough. So I agree, even though it would be super fun to be pregnant together, you do not want competition, you do not want comparison, and sometimes it's nice
It's hard not to,
And it's nice to have things staggered for that reason. It would be really shitty if we were both barfing at the same time. It's nice that when I'm barfing, you can help me out, and when you're barfing, I can help you out because we have the capacity to help each other. So it's almost a blessing.
I'll never forget when I was pregnant. I didn't tell my family right away. I've talked about this before because my sister had been struggling really intensely with pregnancy. Uterine surgeries, all of those things, and I called my dad and I told him that I was pregnant, and the very first thing he said to me was, I feel really bad for your sister. And I bawled my eyes out and called my parents back and was like, I understand that this is a really, really hard time for her, but it's supposed to be a really happy time for me. And I would have preferred you said, I'm so excited for you.
Right.
And I do feel like my relationship was a little bit tainted for a while with my family because I felt like I couldn't really be excited. And so I didn't really share milestones with them or excitements with them. And it's just such a hard line to walk because it is something you should feel excited about. And
it's so hard to navigate those relationships.
So hard.
It's one of the hardest things. And that sucks to feel like
it's a bad thing.
Right. And that it has some sort of dark cloud over it. But on the other hand, I'm sure you understand.
For sure.
Right. And I'm sure you already had that feeling. To have it externally confirmed.
It's probably the first thing I thought of, was how am I going to tell my sister? Let's go through the craziest wives' tales trying to conceive. And I actually asked ChatGPT whether or not they were myths or kind of some truth to them.
I like that.
So, first one is...
I'm curious to see if we did any of these.
Eating pineapple core, especially 5 days after ovulation, can improve implantation.
I didn't know that, but love pineapple.
So the verdict on this is that it's possibly harmless, but it's not proven at all. Eat in moderation if you want. It does say that it contains bromelain, which is an enzyme that may have anti-inflammatory properties and mild blood thinning effects. So there's an idea that it helps the uterus become more receptive for implantation, but there's really no scientific evidence.
I'm going to get a little witchy over here, but the stuff that's there's no scientific evidence, whatever. Have you done a study on it?
Sure. The next one is keeping your feet warm helps you conceive.
I believe in this one because that's an old Chinese medicine thing, and especially if you're trying to conceive in the winter, that's an easy one. Throw some socks on, call it a day. It's not hard, and might as well have good circulation.
Yeah, it says in traditional Chinese medicine, warm feet symbolize circulation. The verdict is that it's culturally significant, no Western evidence, but zero harm in cozy socks.
That reminds me of how when you're in labor and delivery and you are supposed to relax your jaw, to relax your perineum, everything is connected, right? Yeah. Obviously, this is a low barrier to entry thing. Warm up your feet. Call it a day. Relax your jaw. These are just easy things, and you're probably doing them anyway because it's cold.
Yeah. Oh, this one's interesting. Eating certain foods like yams, oysters, royal jelly, Brazil nuts.
Okay, Brazil nuts for the selenium. I like that. I never heard of yams before. Oysters, I thought were an aphrodisiac, but great if you like to eat slimy boogers. Good for you. Yuck. I hate oysters.
I love oysters.
Do you? Slimy booger girl.
Love with some hot sauce. Slimy booger.
When I was first started dating my husband, he was like, "Do you like oysters?" I was like, "Yeah, totally." I was like totally downing oysters and being like, "Yuck."
Now you're like, "No, I do not like oysters."
Could not pay me.
So the verdict was exactly what you said. There's some truth to it, but they're not miracle foods. Eat them if you want. This one's interesting. Lying down with legs in the air after sex.
The legs in the air doesn't make any sense to me because like your legs up, I like hips up, I could get behind that, and just laying down in general because you're not fighting gravity as much, I would think. But the sperm gets to the fallopian tubes in, I think, milliseconds, so I don't think that there's any truth behind it, but what do I know?
Yeah, it says sperm are fast swimmers. They reach the fallopian tubes in minutes. Mm-hmm. Lying flat for 10 to 15 minutes may help, but legs in the air, totally unnecessary.
Makes sense. I will say, I do like legs up the wall for the yoga pose, relaxation.
Do it anyway. Sure.
And like good for circulation, get the blood flowing in the opposite direction. Can't hurt.
It can't hurt.
Low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
No cost.
Yeah.
Try it. If
I
you
like
enjoy
this
it.
One. Trying to conceive during a full moon.
Okay. Again, I'm a little witchy. So there, I'm sure it says, it's not proven by Western science, right? But
that's what it says. Fun myth, but not evidence-based.
Okay, but have you ever noticed that your period comes around either the full moon or what's the small one? Like the crescent?
Let's go through the moon phases really quick.
We are 70% water.
Yes.
It makes sense.
Oh yeah, I'm a full moon period.
You get your
full moon.
Okay, so some people are full moon, some people are crescent moon.
Also, babies tend to be born at interesting times with the moon.
All I'm saying is that we're 70% water. The moon is connected to the tides. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, you ovulate on the full moon and your period comes on the crescent moon. Like
it has less to do with the moon is out, so it's causing you to be pregnant, and more to do with your cycle is already connected to the moon, so it's obvious that, conception ends up being connected to.
Check out the moon the next time you get your period. Just saying.
Just check it out, see what's going on.
Like, is it a full moon? Is it a small moon? God, what is the small moon called? When there's no moon.
Waxing, gibbous, full.
Gibbous?
Gibbous.
Are you
Crescent, waxing, gibbous.
Waning.
So there's a lot, and I don't know the order.
I don't know if gibbous is real, but...
Did we learn this in school?
I mean, in second grade, but it's been a while.
Another one, this can be the last one. Okay. You can only get pregnant on day 14 of your cycle. We already went through that.
We talked about that.
False.
Big, fat false. Now you know.
That is absolutely false.
So, Taylor, what have you implemented so far in your TTC journey? Round 2.
I have my first acupuncture appointment next week.
Excited for you.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. And I have been doing the ovulation test strips, testing my LH. I also am doing a Whole30 with my husband.
Okay. No
drinking. He is not sauning. We are working on his sperm quality. That's kind of it. But after this episode, I'm thinking I'm going to go home. I'm going to do pineapple core. I'm going to check out what the moon situation is like. Why not?
The other thing I forgot to mention is I did seed cycling. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so there's certain seeds, and I can't recite them right now off the top of my head, but I want to say it's like flax and sunflower, and then in the other phase of your cycle, it's like sesame and pumpkin, something like that. All of these seeds. And certain seeds have properties, minerals, that support each phase of your cycle. Wow. So in your follicular phase, you eat those seeds every day. I would just put them in a smoothie or sprinkle them on top of oatmeal or something. And then after you ovulate through until your next period comes, or if you're pregnant, you eat a tablespoon of the other type of seeds every day. And supposedly it's supposed to support the hormones. And again, a low cost way to maybe help. Might be a myth, but I was like, seeds are good for you. Might as well try.
To wrap it up, first of all, just knowing that with this episode, it's not catered towards people struggling with infertility.
Yeah.
It is more so people who are just getting into the weeds, just trying to figure out some fun, useful tips on trying to conceive. We're obviously not fertility doctors.
Honestly. Although maybe I want to be one.
Yeah. Although you are like halfway there. I mean, seriously, you're like a TTC witch.
Honestly, can I add that to my resume? That's sort of my dream.
You're talking about like specific tablespoons of seeds. I'm over here like, I dipped something in pee like twice.
Every day I text Taylor, what's your LH like? She's like, I don't know, I haven't tested yet. I'm like, Taylor.
I had to set alarms on my calendar because it's just not in my personality, and that's why I rely on you.
But again, you do you.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get into the weeds, then have fun. Don't stress yourself out if it causes stress for you. If you enjoy it like me, then do it. I think of it as like a science experiment. I'm like, ooh, what's my body doing? I want to understand why I feel a certain way. Like, I'm like, oh, it's this hormone. This is spiking. I'm looking at charts of hormones and how they change throughout the month. I am into that stuff.
So basically, the moral of this episode is if you are trying to conceive, reach out to Natasha. We will have fun with it with you. You can send us your test strips. We'll be like, ooh, this is what we think.
Love it. Like, honestly,
we'll look at the moon cycle. We'll be your TTC village. We're excited.
Send us a DM.
Send us a DM.
If you want to get into the weeds, I will hold your hand.
Yeah.
But if you don't even stress. You know, some people are type A. Some people are type B. And you should do whatever feels right.
Yeah, do whatever feels right. Something to take away from this episode is remembering that it's not only the women's fertility that we are thinking about. Yes. So if you are listening, definitely make sure to have a chat with your partner about all of the different ways in which sperm can be affected and some simple lifestyle changes, because why not?
Why not?
And also, like, sacrifice something.
Easy. Sacrifice something.
God. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Send us a DM if you are trying to conceive. We want to hear all about it. And we actually want to hear your most unhinged things that you have done.
We live.
Submit it.
We live for the unhinged.
We live for it.
So fun.
It's so fun.
Love y'all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.